the next thing I want to talk to about is your current role at Workomo. I mean, you guys started in a crazy year, and how was that experience like?
Yeah. So, I've known Sumitra for quite some time, um, and I had invested in the company last year, or now 2019, and had seen kind of a lot of the different iterations of the product and kind of the different direction the company had taken early on. And once lockdowns started occurring, kind of, the direction that they moved forward in and the pace at which they were moving forward. And Sumitra and I would regularly have conversations about um, product strategy, et cetera. And a half-hour call typically turned into 3 or 4 hours. And from the beginning, I've always felt like that there was a huge opportunity in this space, partly because address books are broken, CRMs are broken, uh, social media platforms like LinkedIn are broken for professional networking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of gaping holes. And then there's also this new emerging user, which is the prosumer, right? Like, hey, I'm not going to spend $1,000 a year for a LinkedIn professional account or whatever it is, for like Sales Navigator and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll spend $20 a month for something that helps me manage my contacts a little bit better, right? And I think at the heart of what Workamo is doing is it's about helping people build better relationships virtually, right? And that's kind of the world that we have been living in for the past 9 months. And that's probably the year that's probably the type of communication that's going to dominate our relationships for quite some time. Um, so how can we do it better, right? And that's kind of the core with which Workamo is being built, is like, how can we build better relationships with people, and how can we foster those relationships, right? So we've got a bunch of things that we have been talking about even before I joined. There are things that we've been building that we think are going to help with that. Um, we're working on a lot of different things that kind of straddle a whole bunch of different ideas that people have. And I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to talk about that too much yet, because a lot of them are still in the discussion phase and some of them are in development right now. But as somebody who's primarily been out of an operating role for about 10 years now, it's been really exciting to get back into the operating side of things. Um, you know, rolling up your sleeves, like, writing code. I don't do a whole lot of writing code, but whatever code I write is not product related. It's more of like, hey, how do we get something done quickly? That type of stuff. But writing code, looking at processes, managing our data, and it's been so refreshing to kind of just roll up your sleeves and dive into so many different aspects of a very, very early stage company, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for the last decade or so, kind of sat on the other side talking to founders about, what stage they were at, how they were solving some of the problems that they were facing. And now sitting on the other side, it's like, okay, great. Now I got to, talk to all of those people that I spoke to over the last 10 years and ask them for help on solving these problems that we're trying to solve. So, it's been like a lot of fun. I thought it was going to be, actually, I didn't know what to expect because it all happened very, very quickly. And it wasn't something that I had been planning for or looking for. It was just out of a conversation that Sumitra and I were having. It just kind of turned into this, and it went from a conversation to me being on full time within a week. Um, so I didn't really have any expectations. It was just like, okay, I guess I'm doing this. And kind of really diving into everything from customer acquisition to retention to marketing to product to design to features to long-term product road mapping, um, has been a lot of fun.
So you you talked about the address book being broken, and one of the things when I used Workamo or is I had this idea, and this is sort of an extrapolation of I'm sure you've heard of Lunch Club.
Yep.
Uh, I think what Lunch Club effectively did was, because we're all sort of connected on this invisible social network called Gmail.
Yep.
Everyone pretty much who has access to internet is this on the social network called Gmail, and no company has effectively used the integration to Gmail and sort of built a layer on top of Gmail. Obviously, Google did, but no other outside company did very well. I think one of the trends I'm seeing is to exploit this Gmail as a network. And when I saw Workamo and what Workamo is doing, I sort of thought that it's not just about Gmail as a network, but on internet as a network sort of exploitation. But Lunch Club sort of fits perfectly into that scenario because they've leveraged the fact that everyone has a Gmail account so very well. And to an extent, your product also leverages the fact that we use Gmail, and the initial version being very well integrated into Google Calendar and etc. uh, this idea of integrating with Gmail and exploiting and building on top of Gmail is sort of an interesting idea that I've been thinking about a lot. The next topic I want to sort of touch base on, and coming back to your own startup experience, right? You were trying to sort of link between uh, sort of a marketplace for bringing employers and employees. After all these years, did you actually find, I mean, in retrospect, you might be thinking that this idea you had was too early for the game, right? Like, did you now, in all this experience of investing and looking at various pitch decks, did you find companies which are now solving that problem?
Well, Urban Clap is probably the closest one, that kind of went after what I had tried to go after. It was kind of, and of course, Urban Clap has grown way beyond that now. But my idea was to really focus on unskilled domestic labor, right? And the cooks, the nannies, the chefs, the drivers, cleaning people, somebody who can do some basic plumbing work or whatever, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody in India is always looking for help.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the idea. And I think Urban Clap has probably gone after that market the best. There have been a bunch of other companies that I've met over the years that have tried to go after it, and most of them are out of business at this point. But it's a very difficult space to operate in, and one of the biggest challenges that I think even Urban Clap faced were the two major things, which were security and quality. And if you have people that are not on your payroll, it's very difficult for you to really manage and assess either of those things. If they are people on your payroll, it's a little bit easier for you to try to manage quality, and hopefully you're doing everything that you can to manage security. But the overall infrastructure in India doesn't allow for background checks, right? There's no way for anybody to get background checks done on everyone. And you have the police verification system, which is completely and utterly broken, in my opinion, and really does nothing. I've never met anybody who said, yeah, we got police verification done for an employee or whatever, and it came back negative saying that, oh, this person has committed a crime. Never heard it, ever. So, that I think is a big problem, and that opens up a huge can of worms. I think today things are very different than they were in 2007 when I was trying to do this. People are far more comfortable with doing things online, doing transactions online, meeting people online, or having somebody referred to you online and then kind of taking it offline afterwards. That wasn't the case 13 years ago. So I think, a lot has changed, and I think it's still a very difficult problem to solve, but people are cracking aspects of it now, which is good to see.
This has been a really good conversation, and we're sort of coming to the end of our conversation. So, any interesting content that you follow that you'd like to suggest to our listeners? I mean, be it podcasts or books or blogs that sort of help you in the way you think and sort of you follow.
Yeah. So, I haven't been following any particular blogs as of recently. There's a lot of really great content all across the spectrum. So, I'll read a blog post on Substack, then I'll read another blog post that someone put on WordPress. And there's some really great Twitter threads that a lot of founders and investors put out, which are really awesome. So Twitter's still kind of like a really important part of my consumption. I'm less active in terms of tweeting these days, but I am still very active in terms of consuming off of Twitter. And some really fantastic tweet storms that people put out. So that's one. Clubhouse is another. I've really fallen in love with Clubhouse over the last couple of months. To me, it's like real-time podcasts. There are some really fantastic conversations on all kinds of topics that are happening in real time, right? So I'm not time shifting my listening to a podcast. Instead, I can engage with people in real time. So that's been really, really cool. So my podcast listening has virtually gone to zero over the course of the last year. I was a huge podcast fanatic in 2005, 2006. Two of my favorite podcasts were podtech.net by Jim Furrier, and then Greg Gallant did Venture Voice here in New York. Greg recently relaunched Venture Voice, so I am trying to listen to that periodically. But there's a lot of great content all over the place, and it's. I think at this point it's kind of like an a la carte menu of just pick what you're looking for in a particular given point in time. And there's some great content around that one topic. Go consume it and move on to the next one. I think those days of like, hey, I'm going to follow Brad Feld's blog and religiously wait for Brad to put a blog post out, I don't think those are there anymore. Like, yeah, sure, I'll look at Brad's blog, I'll look at Fred Wilson's blog, but I'm not like sitting here waiting for them to put out a blog post anymore, because there's so much more really high quality content that's out there. Whether you're talking about YouTube, like Gary Tan's YouTube channel, he started it, I guess, a year ago and is completely blown up. So I'm a big fan of Gary's YouTube content. I have my own YouTube channel that I've been putting out content a little less regularly than I would like, but kind of that's been another place where I've spent a lot of time consuming content, is just following and reading and watching people talk about video as a medium. So that's been an area that's been a lot of interest to me over the last couple of years. So I've taught myself video editing. I've taught myself a whole bunch of stuff around that. And that's been a fun experience to kind of learn from a lot of folks that have some really great content about video production, not professional, but, amateur video production.
I mean, finally, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Probably Twitter. PJAIN on Twitter is probably the best way to reach me. My DMs are open. If people want to pitch, there's a forum on my blog, pjane.me/pitch-me. If I remember correctly, just go there and put your pitch in. And if it looks like it's something that is of interest, I'll reach out. So those are the two best ways.
This has been a great and fascinating conversation, Pankaj, and I look forward to more conversations on Clubhouse with you.
Nataraj, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. Thank you.